Well, welcome everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Look who it is! I always point the wrong way. AstroAzure, right?
Yep.
Okay, where did the name come from, and what was your inspiration for that?
So I play Final Fantasy 14.
Oh, okay.
And there's a class called AstroAzure and that's how my friend sucked me in. I was leaving WoW because of all this stuff going on at Blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
And you can heal with tarot cards and stars. And I was like, son of a bitch, I'm in. So AstroAzure's my main class in Final Fantasy 14, and I was planning on doing gaming streaming, so I went with AstroAzure.
Okay.
And then I was like, I like that name because I really like galaxies and stuff, and that's kind of been my whole like vibe. So I decided to roll with it and run with it for the art stuff too.
Oh, that's awesome! Like so, one of the people who I interviewed before, his name is Yvonne7, and he was on the channel a few weeks back. He said a fellow WOL.
Yes, Warrior of Light, let's go.
So in preparing for this whole interview, I kind of fell into like a rabbit hole of your artwork. When did you start doing that?
So this has been a lot more recent. I've been drawing since I was very little.
Okay.
But like a lot of people, like a lot of millennials, like, you know, your family goes, you can't be an artist. That's not going to make you money. So I stopped for a very long time, and I started playing Dungeons and Dragons again with Neo Soul God, and our group is wild.
Yes.
We may or may not have turned the entirety of Lake Zarovich into holy water.
Yes, I've been watching. Like I lurk everywhere. I've been watching, and you guys may or may not have done that.
We may or may not have. So like, I wanted to make a webcomic because I'm like, more people need to see our ridiculousness.
Right.
So I bought a computer tablet and started playing around with it, and realized I really enjoyed doing it. And then I used to make dice. I can no longer do so for my health. So when I realized I had to pivot my business again, I was like, might as well start doing art. It's right there.
Yeah, it's totally true. Yeah. But why fantasy art? Like, why did you gravitate toward fantasy art?
I grew up at a time where like you didn't really see Black folks in fantasy. And you still really don't see a lot of Black folks unless it's like a specifically Black created space. So like I wanted to make art. I tell my mom all the time that like, because my mom is a dark-skinned Black woman, and she was always so hard on herself appearance-wise. So I want to make sure another little girl like my mom sees themselves as a fairy princess, sees themselves as beautiful. Because I saw how hard my mom was on herself, and it always made me so sad.
Oh, okay.
So I love drawing whimsy Black women because Black women deserve to be whimsy. Black women deserve to be silly and goofy and magical without it being a trope. So that's why I kind of gravitated towards that. Like it started, like I said, with the webcomic idea, and then like I just really found I enjoyed drawing Black fairies and you know, Black mer people, and it just kind of went boom after that.
It totally did win boom, guy. So like I said, I fell into a rabbit hole of your art and watching and like looking at your stuff, and like I was like, God, I gotta get a print. But also, it kind of brought to mind, oddly enough, and I don't know if you guys know about this awful movie. What's it called? The Magical something of Negro?
Oh, the Society of Magical
Oh
Negro.
my gosh. It's the most horrible. First of all, I feel like we got gaslit into thinking that it was going to be a Harry Potter type of like movie. And then they flipped the script and said, no, this is what it is. Here's a trope for you. So I kind of wish that from looking at your art that that's the direction they took. So is current art and current media something that you take from to try and combat the tropes of you can't see Black fairies and stuff?
Not really, because like I said, you don't really see a lot of Black folks in fantasy.
Right.
So it kind of feels like if I don't want to accidentally fall into those tropes and fall into those pitfalls, that I kind of just have to go with it and not really pay attention. Because yeah, like we were just talking about this a couple weeks ago on Discord about how like we were all like really hyped about the movie, and then we went, oh no.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pitfall that a lot of fantasy and TTRPG has, is because people don't know really what to do with the stories. They fall back into these tropes. and end up making the space hostile for other people. So I was like, I'm just gonna do my own thing and kind of ignore like how fantasy operates in general, and we're just gonna take a wide left here.
I agree. Like, it's like one of those things. Like, I kind of avoid what I see when I'm writing, and then I'm just kind of like, okay, I'll just do my own thing, which is what usually happens. So I agree, but I was drawn into the movie for about the first little bit of it, and then I was like, it's very much a gaslit type of like, they gaslit the crap out of everyone. But anyway, I digress. Your art style is very whimsical, and you lean heavily into like really bright, bold colors and strong textures. Is that a preference for you that you've had from the beginning, or did it develop over time?
It kind of developed over time. When I first started doing art again, I didn't really have kind of like a strong artistic voice, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I hadn't drawn at that point for about 10 years, probably.
Wow.
Because between kind of lifing and I developed a lot of neurological issues in my hands, so traditional media just isn't a thing I can do anymore.
Right.
And the art community, unfortunately, has a really bad bias with digital art. So like for a long time, I was really like, I'm not gonna do digital art. I'm just not gonna do art. And then finally, I was like, okay, this is silly. Like, art is art. Who cares? So I really started experimenting with different brushes and different like color schemes. And I finally, one night, I was like really feeling it, and I was like, I don't like any of this. And then I was like, I'm just gonna do it this way. And I was like, oh, I like this. So yeah, this is my
that's amazing.
My D&D character. My camera's being goofy right now and like
totally,
doesn't want to focus. That's Kamaya. So that's the Curse of Strahd campaign character. And then I did a Strahd drawing because I was trying to.
Oh, nice! I like that.
This is the one. This is one that I had done for Neo.
Yes, that's the one she's talking about. It's gorgeous.
And that one was the one where like I really did it for the first time, that style, and I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. I like it this way. Yes, I'm actually working on a TTRPG system. I'm working on art with Sunny, actually.
Okay.
For a new TTRPG that's being developed. And so Laffy, let me pull her up, was one of the characters from that TTRPG. And that was one of the first times. Oh shoot, that's not on my. I gotta pull that one up on my phone.
Totally, it's okay.
Laffy was one of the first times where like I looked at my work and I couldn't actually find anything wrong with it.
Oh wow, that's
like
one of those feelings. You're like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. That's one of the ones that like got me down the rabbit hole. I was just like, I'm looking at this one and look like.
So I like being able to work. Like first of all, being commissioned like is super validating, right? Because it's like, oh man, people actually do think I'm doing good things.
Right.
But then like to like from that be able to make something that you truly just feel is. It felt like I was coming into my own, if that makes sense. Like it truly felt like a moment where I'm like, I've got this. I'm good.
So. Once you got that validation, like you said, that commission art, did art become your full-time exclusive business?
I still do like physical stuff, so I still sell dice bags and trays. I just don't dye the fabric anymore because I can't do that either.
Okay.
But like, come here. So like, I'll go to Joann's and I'll like find fabric that was interesting. This one made me super duper happy.
Oh, that's cool. Oh my god, it's so cute.
So I got this one. I have to make some stuff with that one. So I do still make bags and trays, and I also do candles. And I appreciate you because I saw on my Instagram it still said coming soon, and I've been doing candles for a hot minute now.
Okay.
But I'm just never on Instagram, so I forgot about it. So.
So what I said. So people who don't know, I send a prelim of questions that I may or may not ask. I might throw stuff in there. You never know what's gonna happen. But I was like, it says something soon was one of the questions, but now we know it's not coming soon. You do sell candles though. So
yes,
awesome. Yes, Haley. Yes, candles. So you attend a lot of conventions. How has COVID and I know how has COVID and the recent increased vendor fees affected your business, especially like the commissions and the candle making and stuff like that?
It's been wild. So I went to apply for my city's Juneteenth festival because we have one of the largest Juneteenth festivals in the country.
Okay.
And when I applied and vended there in 2019, it was $50. It was $225 for this year.
Wow.
And I was like, I can't do that.
Right.
Like,
no
you know, and what's happening in the con scene is there were a lot of cons already struggling because of like mismanagement of funds pre-COVID.
Right.
COVID put those cons under.
Yes.
And so what happened was in an attempt to like fill the void, a lot of cons expanded way too fast, or new cons popped up before they were really ready and had the leadership structure to do so.
Right.
And because of that, there was like a huge surge of people buying stuff post-COVID because everybody was excited to be back in person. But now with the cost of living so high, people are being really, really careful. So like I did EverCon last month, and is a good con, always is a good con, one of my go-tos. But people were being very discerning in what they were buying. Excuse me, a lot of cash transactions, a lot of people like walking the entire floor and coming back if they were going to purchase. Which is unusual, yeah, cons are still playing on the idea of that post-COVID surge, and they're not understanding that that's not what's happening anymore.
Right.
And because the money is not coming in from memberships, and hotels are doing a lot of wonky stuff too. I had the hotel that I stayed at, they tried to say that they had $100 refundable fee for me using my debit card versus a credit card.
What?
And then when I was like, no, they were like, well, all hotels do that. I was like, I've been traveling for 7 years. No, they don't.
No, they don't.
Absolutely not.
No, they don't.
So I know that some cons on the back end are probably getting shafted by hotels, but because cons are either having these fees show up or being mismanaged, they're trying to put that on the vendors, and vendor fees go up, which prices lots of small businesses out. Cons like Gen Con flat out make their environments hostile for small businesses.
Really? What do you mean by that?
Their fees, just the price of a table at Gen Con. Their rules have changed in recent years, so they're not as strict, but they have a point system, and if they decide you are doing something they don't like, they'll deduct points and then blacklist you from future Gen Cons.
Oh wow. Okay, that's depressing. Thank you.
Right. So, like, Gen Con's not one I vend at anyway. One, it's too far for me. I live in Wisconsin. Indiana's just too far for me to go on my own because I have to do all of this solo. But there's a con here called Gary Con, and their booth is $400. And I got in one year off the wait list, and they wanted that in a week. And I was like, that's not happening. So give it to somebody else.
Jesus.
Like, unless you are a lot of the cons, especially a lot of the TTRPG cons, are starting to go towards having big gaming stores at the con as vendors, which immediately makes it harder for smaller vendors.
Right.
And that's where a lot of cons are going. And some of them, like EverCon, they are really, really good about making sure that like their space is small business inclusive. Their fees, I think their tables are still only like $75. And I'll pay for a table that I know is worth it. Right. But there's a point where I don't know if it's worth it, and it's not a financial risk I can really take. Right. So I'm having to be more choosy about where I go for cons, because like some cons I don't know how they are, so am I going to make the money back? I don't know. And $400 for a small business that's huge.
That's massive. I mean, I heard you mention in one of your TikToks that one of the cons was I think they're charging vendors upwards of $1,900 or something.
There's a festival here called Bastille Days because we have a fairly large French Catholic population, and their booths are like $2,000 for the weekend.
Okay, first of all, how are you supposed to make your money back? That's number one. Two, $2,000.
That's not even that unusual anymore. It really isn't. It's getting really bad.
Really bad. So, are there any other options for you as a vendor? Maybe like setting up outside of the con or doing something else, not totally in conjunction, but somewhere close by where people are like, "Oh, that's something cool." Not really associated with them, but I can stop in over there.
No, they are very. You know, if you're not vending at the con, you can't do stuff. Like, I had a plan to go to Anime Milwaukee.
Okay.
And I vended there last year, was not a fan, so I wasn't going to vend there again this year, but I was just going to, like, have a sign being like, I'm an artist,
Right.
come talk to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And their convention rules, I could have gotten in trouble for that.
Really?
They because it's seen as like going around the con
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. Cons are getting really cutthroat about vendor and artist alleys, because usually I'll try to do an artist alley table because that's cheaper than just, having a booth.
Right.
But even some of the artist alleys, like GalaxyCon, is $900,000 for the weekend for an artist alley
Oh
table.
my God.
Yeah, no, it's wild.
That's traveling. Like if I'm traveling, or I decide to travel somewhere, whether it's for whatever I'm doing, business, whatever, that's airfare and hotel. Why in the name would I pay?
Yeah, that's not even factoring in hotel costs if I have to stay
Right.
over the weekend. And I'm pretty good at getting inexpensive hotel costs. Like I usually book well in advance. I look at ratings, I do what I got to do, but I'm just like, that's even like if I'm having to pay $900 even before hotel costs,
Jesus Christ.
that's
That's
I'm
insane.
having to make $1,100 just to make
Just
to offset
break
the cost.
even. Yeah, just to break even. Oh my God. So, just getting away from the cons because that's a little bit depressing. But he used to be so weird.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool. So weird. I get it now. So weird, galactic, but have since pivoted to AstroAzure art. Why the change? You kind of touched it a little bit, but why the change?
Yeah. So Weird Galactic Accessories was I started it, gosh, 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Was when I started on Etsy, and I was making cybergoth clothing.
Okay.
But I was working full time. I had a toddler. Didn't really have the focus to put
Right.
into it.
Right.
In 2017, I developed fibromyalgia, and I had to stop working.
Okay.
And so I started making hand-painted dice bags and trays.
Mm-hmm.
And so Weird Galactic Accessories, so TTRPG accessories.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2018, I started making dice
Okay.
because I'm hard-headed, and everybody kept going, "Where's the dice?" And I was like, "Well, if I'm gonna have dice, I'm gonna make dice."
Right.
So that started a whole thing. But this time, I knew I had to pivot my business again because I couldn't do the dice and I couldn't dye the bags anymore.
Okay.
So I decided it was probably time for just like a complete refresh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that this name is now more indicative of what I do now.
Right.
And that way, like, I'm still applying under the So Weird because that's where all my tax stuff is.
Right.
But I'm just letting the cons know, like, hey, I am, like, next year I'm applying for a formal name change. I'm planning on doing all that. So, like, just so we know, like, if you see me under this, it's still me. It's just
still right.
different name.
Different name. Okay.
Because I've made it a point to the cons that I frequent that I know who their vendor heads are, and I know that I maintain a good relationship with them.
Okay.
So that way, I can say, yeah, I'm guaranteed I can go back to this place again.
Okay. Which makes sense. That totally makes sense. So, you said you accepted commissions earlier, but do you have an independent website, or is it solely through Etsy and Instagram?
I do my art stuff on Ko-fi or Ko-fi.
Okay.
I
don't know
always,
either. I don't know if it's Ko-fi.
Right.
I have no idea.
Just because Etsy gets really weird around prints, where they want you to list, like, if I'm using Luma prints to drop ship a print, right? They want me to list that on Etsy and be like, well, it's technically a drop ship, and it's like, well, yes, but
right.
So I do, and Ko-fi has a really good structure for how to do commissions. I need them to release an app. Please, for the love of God, release an app. They've been saying for 5 years they're going to release an app.
And it hasn't happened yet.
It still hasn't happened. I need them to do that. So my art stuff's on Ko-fi. I keep the bags and the candles on Etsy because that's where those are going to do the best.
Okay.
But anything art related, and you can buy my stuff on Ko-fi as well.
Okay.
But the art stuff is solely on Ko-fi, just so I don't have to deal, because I got a copyright infringement for one of my dice sets last year because I called it Black Ice, and they decided that was a copyright infringement, and I had to yell at people for like 30 minutes to get the listing unbanned.
How is Black Ice a copyright infringement?
We had a field day on TikTok trying to figure it out because we couldn't figure it out.
Because the only thing I know, is as Black Ice would be those air freshener trees that you see in cars.
That was one of them. Mm-hmm. And then the other one was, I guess there's something on Call of Duty that's like a Black Ice set. We couldn't, we were like, we don't know. Eventually, it was reinstated and the set sold, but it was just like, come on. Why?
Weird. That's so weird. So, are there any plans for you to start creating your art on stream? Because my part of my goal is to get everyone on Twitch. Don't ask me why. Not Kick, because Kick is weird. And Kick has like soft porn, but
oh no,
it's bizarre over there. But do you plan on doing streaming your art?
Possibly. I was streaming video games for a while on Twitch. And then I was like, you know what? I don't have to monetize all my hobbies. I can keep gaming for myself.
Right.
So I may start doing a thing. And part of it was my 3-year-old has just now gotten to the point where we're sleeping through the night every night. So I couldn't maintain a schedule because sometimes we'd go to bed at 7 a.m. Sometimes we'd go to bed at 6 p.m. I don't know. So now that his schedule's consistent and I can actually sleep at night, I can actually start deciding if I want to do like art streams. So I probably will. I don't know if I'll do them on TikTok or on Twitch.
Okay.
Because TikTok is much better for getting organic traffic coming in. But that also means you get all the racists.
Yes.
And I don't know if I want to do that again. I stopped doing dice slaves because people were coming in hot, and I kept getting live violations because I'd cuss them out. So
I did one live once, and happily it was like one of those things, like just as I was getting off the live, the crazy started coming out. I was like, okay, time to go, click. Like, nope. Like, absolutely not. So if you do decide to do that, do you think that Twitch would be a better platform for you, or because, like you said, TikTok is more organic?
I'll probably end up doing both for a while. Just like do like one day do Twitch, one day do TikTok, and just kind of see what happens.
Right.
See like which one will be better. I feel like Twitch would be more chill, so I'd probably end up going with Twitch. To be honest with you, because I don't know what's happening on TikTok right now, but like all the like incel white dudes woke up and just like showed up all of a sudden, and I'm like, y'all can go back to wherever you went to.
Also,
where it came from. Thank
the
you.
red pill black dude showed up as well.
Yeah.
Like, bizarre. Like, we got red pill and incel, and it's not a good combo.
No.
There. It's so terrifying. Like, I've deleted so many comments.
Just leave me alone, man.
Videos. Like, stop it. Go away. Like, I interview nice people. Why are you commenting on stuff that doesn't... Okay, anyway. I digress. Anyway. I could go into a whole thing about why I spend so much time on TikTok, without actually being on TikTok. Like, I could go over that. So we talked about earlier how you used to do make dice, like you actually used to make dice, and you no longer do that. But because you no longer do that, it's still a staple of your business. Where do you get your supplier from? Is it something that you just kind of like? Do you just paint on the dice, or are you just getting dice in from somewhere else?
Actually, I'm basically down to my last few sets, and then after that, I won't be selling them anymore. I was going to try for a partnership with Die Hard Dice.
Okay.
And then in their contract, they were like, you have to scrub your social media presence. And I was like, yep, that's not happening. Because they're like, you can't be cussing and calling people names on the internet. And I was like, well, no. So, unfortunately, once of my dice that I have are gone, that's going to be it.
Okay, so I have to... Note to self, buy dice from you before they're gone. Is that what you're saying?
I don't have that many sets left. I went to EverCon with what I had, and people are like, yoink.
Oh, no.
And like, it was sad because like there's somebody who like sees me at multiple cons a year and buys a set for me every time they see me.
Oh, no.
So they were like, this is my last set, and I'm like, I'm sorry. It's not safe for my health anymore. I'm sorry.
I had thought about doing it for a little while, and then I was like, I heard that it's super toxic, or it can be, and it's super labor intensive.
Oh yeah, God, yes.
And I am the type of person who will wear the safety gear for a little while. I'm like, I don't need it. It'll be fine. Lung cancer. You know?
Well, so like, people like I've had dudes comment on my videos like, I've been doing resin for X amount of years and I'm fine, and then I look and they're like and all their like stuff, and I'm like, are you really fine? And then like you mentioned labor intensive. It is incredibly labor intensive. And my friend Whitney at Smoke and Glue Guns, was getting like a whole stream of comments about how she's overcharging, and I'm like, do you know how much the molds for those giant dice are?
So
$400 just for the molds.
Yeah, I looked into it. I was like, the cost just to start is massive. Like, I'm like, I can't even start this with what I'm.
Yeah,
there's
because
no
it's
way.
not just like the resin and the glitter. Like,
Right.
if you want to do like good dice, you either need to buy molds, which are expensive, or buy silicone, which is expensive. You have to buy a pressure pot because otherwise your dice are going to be full of, like, look like Swiss cheese. Like, it takes resin. People think that just because it's resin and that like you can just get it, it's easy. No, resin it is a fickle little bastard.
Oh wow.
Like,
okay.
I was using one resin for like 3 years and had to stop because they changed their formulation just enough that it no longer was doing what I needed it to do.
Oh wow. Okay.
So then I had to go experiment with all sorts of resins, and it took me like a month to find a new resin. And it was just like, and that's not even getting to like the safety stuff, and so you'll be like going on TikTok and there's all these people just like pouring resin with their bare hands in front of their kids and their pets, and I'm like, I'm just like, please don't die. Stop, please. Stop. Like, you can develop a spontaneous anaphylactic reaction to resin. And that's dangerous. And people be just like, it's fine. And I'm like, okay.
So do you think that, well, obviously it's definitely less toxic, but you pivoted with your art, but do you think that moving to candles is similar to what you were doing?
Yeah, like, I had started doing candles while I was still doing dice, too.
Okay.
I had basically wanted something at my booth that was, like, more cost-effective and, like, something I could produce fairly quickly. And the idea was candles scented like environments, so, like, if you're running through a marsh, I have a candle that smells like a nice marsh, not like an empty marsh. That's actually one of my favorites. That one's really good.
Okay.
But so when I realized I couldn't do dice anymore, I was like, and part of the planning was, when you work with resin for a long time, there's a point where you're gonna have to stop.
Okay.
Like, it's not something you can do forever.
Okay.
And some of our bodies are just more sensitive than others, so like it came a lot faster for me. So I had done the candles as like a just in case, and so I already had that set up, and that worked out really, really well. And I like making candles. It's something I did as a kid, and I was like, so it's something I have a skill set in already.
Okay.
I was new to working with soy wax, though. That took a little while to get the intricacies of soy wax down, but now it's like, it's a real chill thing I can do. I can just like have it warming, and I'm like drawing and like stir a little bit here and there, and then good to go.
Also, so children can do this then?
Oh yeah, no. My daughter has actually made candles with me.
Okay. Because my niece,
she was like, I want to. She was like, I want to make dice, and I was like, no,
no,
absolutely not.
Like, no, sorry, I'm gonna put my foot down. Parenting time. Like, no. Yeah, my niece wants to do it, and we're kind of like, I don't know, this is dangerous, but it's not. She can do it. It's not dangerous. Okay, cool.
Nah.
So we're gonna pivot a little bit to how I found you. And I touched on it a little bit when I spoke with Meadow last week. But everyone who knows this question, this is the lady that I guess got the question. Like they got the question. There was a recent kerfuffle on TikTok within the TTRPG community where a bigger content creator here on I'm not on TikTok. I don't know if you know he's on Twitch, but on TikTok and on Instagram he's huge. Victimize people within the TTRPG community because he is a black man. It opened the floodgates of negative and racist and anti-black comments on a lot of our pages, mine included. And Azure got a question that said, name 5 black TTRPG content creators. So they were challenged to do this. It was very similar to the Night Skin incident, and it triggered a follow train. What are your feelings on all this discovery and what happened?
I mean, trolls are gonna troll. Like, I've been on the internet forever. Like, I'm pretty used to people coming into my comment section and showing their butts. It happens. I look at it as a net positive because it put me in front of a lot of people, and it put a lot of people in front of me that I didn't know about, and a lot of people that I've really respected in the community. I'm now mutuals with. Walt Way from the Brister English Project followed me,
wow,
which was wild. I was just like,
wow.
I was like, what is happening? Abria Iyengar saw the post I made about Gabe Hicks. I came up to my husband and I was like, Abria Iyengar knows I exist. Oh God. Oh God. I hate that it is hatred that ends up bringing us closer together.
Right.
But it's always comforting to know that Black TTRPG TikTok has each other's backs, and that we're gonna run up when someone calls.
Yes, yes.
So it may have, like I said in another video, it wasn't the best way to get to this moment, but like we got here and our community's stronger for it. Right. And a lot of people who didn't know each other now know each other and can support each other even more, and that's great. And I really like that. I wish we could have done it in a more positive way, or like it could have happened more positively, but that kind of just,
it was one
kind of just has it how it happened. I don't know.
I mean, like I said, it's very similar to when the whole night skin thing happened, where everyone's like, we like that, that's ours. But
yoink.
Yeah, exactly, yoink. But do you think that that type of negativity is always going to be present in TTRPG, or do you think over time, with active voices combating it, it will go away?
I mean, any smaller community is a microcosm of like larger systemic pressures. So as long as systemic racism is a thing in our society, it's always going to show up in smaller communities. What we can do is just make sure that we are loudly saying this is not going to fly here, because what's been happening a lot in TTRPG, like there's still the very toxic dudes who are like, oh, the women's and the gays and the black peoples are ruining my TTRPGs. But you're seeing a lot more voices very quickly run to the front and say, nah, we're not doing this anymore.
Right.
And that's different from when I was growing up. Because like when I was growing up, you just kind of had to eat that if you wanted to play. Like you couldn't really do anything about it.
Right.
So see that there's been a massive shift in how the community responds to these incidences, and that gives me a lot of hope that it is getting better. It may not ever fully go away, because you're always going to have jackasses no matter where you go.
Yeah.
But at least it's at a point where people are very loudly standing by the Black community and saying, no, we're not doing this time.
I agree. It's been very loud, and I like the loudness of it. So that's, like I said, I found all these wonderful people. Like I was like, oh my god, this is click. I didn't even know half the people, and then all of a sudden I have all these great people in my purview. So we touched on Gabe Hicks a lot, and I have not spoken about on my channel much, pretty much because it's
not your responsibility.
It's not my responsibility, and I obviously don't agree with what he's done. But what he has done, and I won't go into it. You guys can do your research. Google exists. You can just search it on TikTok. You'll find it. Just put in Gabe Hicks. You'll figure out what he's done. But by what he's done, do you think that we have been set back in the, I guess, being pushed forward in TTRPG and in just gaming in general?
Yeah, unfortunately, anytime something like this happens, it always sets the community back a little bit. Again, given how people are responding now, I don't think it's as far back as it would, like, say 5 years ago if this had happened.
Right.
But you're always, incidences like this are a really good litmus test for a community, because it's going to show you kind of how the community is going to respond to problems when it is a marginalized person that is causing them. And it was a very clear thing this time of, don't be anti-Black, we're not doing this.
Right. Cons, conventions, cosplays, TTRPG, a lot of people are complaining that they've become more toxic, and more, not as niche, more, I guess, popular, and because of the popularity, it's not the same. What are your thoughts on that, and do you think that's actually a thing?
I don't really. Like, my whole outlook on life is we're supposed to walk the path so the people behind us
Right.
don't have to blaze it. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
like, we're supposed to, like, chop down the bushes on our way through so that other people don't have to do that.
Right.
So, like, it doesn't really bother me that, like, Dungeons and Dragons became more mainstream or, like, anime became more mainstream, because to me, that just means more exposure to new things.
Right.
And my favorite phenomenon at this table is new D&D player, because a lot of us have been around the system for so long. We have very constrained ideas of kind of what we can and cannot do. And with new players, they don't have that.
Right.
So they think of the wildest shit.
It's the best
and it's great.
time. And it's the best time.
And like, so in our we were playing a hard mode for Curse of Strahd that Neo rewrote, and we had to replace a player due to some unfortunate incidences. And the person we replaced them with was someone who'd been watching the entire time but had never played before.
Oh wow, okay.
And she's doing such a good job. She's doing so well. She comes in and her first battle crits and melts a ghast in one shot. And I'm just like,
what?
Okay, cool, let's go. So like, I'm always of the mind, I feel like people who are afraid that a hobby is too mainstream is afraid of, like, they've made that hobby kind of their personality, and they're afraid of not being special anymore.
Gotcha.
And I think that's where a lot of it comes from, where, well, now it's not special because everybody's doing it. And if you're getting into a hobby to feel special or better than everybody, then that's a problem that you need to deal with.
Yeah.
Away from everybody else.
100% agree. That's 100% agree. You talked earlier about how you were going to partner with a dice company, but because they wanted you to scrub your social media, it was a no. You are and have become a large speaking voice in the not only TTRPG community, but in gaming community in general. What motivated you to speak up, one, and what keeps you in the TTRPG community speaking up for everyone else?
Growing up, my dad is white, and I grew up primarily around his family, and they were pretty bad. And I was not allowed to stand up for myself in those instances because, you know, my dad just didn't want the trouble. He didn't want to rock the boat. So, you know, I had people related to me by blood being terrible to me for something that was not my fault. As I got older, I realized I never wanted to be put in that position again, where I can't very vocally say, no, we're not doing this.
Right.
And I know that I have no problem getting online and cussing people out. And
I have seen it.
That's not everybody's way of going about things.
Right.
And that's fine. That's valid. However you find your peace of mind, you are valid. But I am more than willing to get up on front of camera and cuss people out if that means that somebody else doesn't have to do that if they're not comfortable doing it. And what motivated the video about Gabe Hicks is one of my friends, who was one of the first friends I made on TikTok and has been in the TTRPG community for forever, got harassed so badly that they were going to step away.
Oh, wow.
And I was mad. I was heated. I was mad. Because nobody deserves that, but she especially didn't deserve that. So, or like my friend Whitney. Whitney is the nicest person on the planet. I am not. So Whitney has such a large following that it's kind of dangerous for her in a way. Thank you. To like really get into it with people. I don't have that problem.
Right.
Because whenever I get followed, I go and look at that follower's page because I have absolutely unfollowed and blocked people for me.
Same.
Because I'm not going to have followers that are not going to make me feel safe, or anybody else for that matter. So for me, and I was explaining it to my therapist, and I was like, I was taught how to be an asshole as a kid. So my job now is to be a bigger asshole to the assholes so they leave nice people alone.
That is a good, that's perfect. That's perfect.
And every time I do that, that little kid that had to just eat all those insults and all that cruelty as a kid heals a little bit more, because it's me setting boundaries, saying this is not what we are going to do, and doing that for other people. And plus, like, colorism is a thing. I'm fairly light-skinned. So people, unfortunately, are probably going to listen to me faster than they're going to listen to darker-skinned people. So, like, if I can take that heat off of them,
Right.
I'm happy to do that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You're getting a lot of fans in chat. They're like, "You're amazing."
Thank you.
So they have been playing in Neo's world for quite some time. What made you gravitate towards TTRPGs, and why D&D in particular?
I had actually planned on never playing D&D again.
Really?
Because of the whole Hadozi situation.
Mm.
I was like, I'm done. But then Neo put out a video saying that he was doing a Curse of Strahd rewrite.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, tagged me. And I was like, all right, I get it. I
Right.
get the hit. And what was nice was I had a conversation with Neo before we started, because I've done the Curse of Strahd before with a really bad group, my husband and I both.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, hey, there are things I'm concerned about.
Yes.
And Neo took me into a call and explained a lot of the rewrites and just like really put me at ease.
Mm-hmm.
And Neo has taught me to play D&D in a way I did not think was possible, because I would play characters with like really big backstories and like character hooks, and it was always treated as a war game when I would play. So I never got to really do anything with my characters. So like the character I'm playing is actually what the character I played the first time.
Okay.
Just bringing her here so that she can get the attention she deserved then. And oh boy, is she getting it. I may or may not have stepdad issues with Strahd now. It's wild. So, like, knowing that there's people who are taking D&D and because the Curse of Strahd is a bad module.
Yes.
For a lot of different reasons. Like, it is incredibly racist. It is incredibly
do not like that module.
So knowing that someone is putting in the work to like fix all that and make it so that like it's not icky anymore.
Right.
Like, that's really heartening, and it really makes me feel like we're doing something better.
Okay.
We're playing Lancer, which is a mech TTRPG. And I dropped in on that. My bestie tells me I have a FOMO problem, but not because I act on the FOMO, it's because I don't act on the FOMO. So like it was Moro, my friend, my husband, Neo, and then we were sitting, like they were playing and I was listening in, and like the last Friday, like the day before they were supposed to go, I was like, can I make a character and jump in?
I want to play.
And everybody's like, why didn't you just play from the start? And I was like, I didn't know if I would like it. I'm sorry. So like one of the big problems I have is I was always told that I was too much.
Okay.
That I was, too big of a personality. So like I have a hard time throwing myself into stuff.
Okay.
Because I feel like I'm being too much.
Okay.
And so this is really dragging me out of that. I was telling my therapist, I was like, I normally have a foot out the door, ready to go in case things go south. And I realized like 3 months ago, I didn't do that this time, and I panicked.
Ooh, okay.
Because I was like, what if everybody stops liking me all of a sudden? What if I do something wrong? And my therapist was like, stop it. Stop it.
Like, you're not, cut it out.
And like, I've explained that to my friends, and they're like, stop it. Stop it. So I'm working on it. I'm working on being myself in other places besides cussing people out on the internet.
Yeah. Really quick, hi Maro. I know Maro because I played with Maro on Scarlet 64's channel. It was so much fun. Hi, Maro.
That was so funny.
It was so much. I had a blast. So we talked about this earlier, but you're not currently here on Twitch. And you said that maybe it might change soon. I'm still gonna like keep pressing other people to get here on Twitch. But how soon is soon? Is there a time frame you're thinking about? Is it just a kind of back burner thing that you've been like floating around, or is it gonna happen?
I actually went to my channel and I was like looking at it. I'm probably gonna try to at least do a weekly stream starting in a couple weeks. Excuse me. And just see how it goes.
Right.
I have affiliate. I can do it.
Yep.
Might as well.
Like
I said,
yeah.
I had started it for gaming, and then I was like, I don't want to monetize my gaming. I want something like I want a hobby that I just do for fun.
Right.
But that doesn't mean I can't still like draw on it. So
True.
I will probably do at least a weekly, see how that goes, and I might do like a weekly on TikTok, see how that goes. I would like they have services where you can dual stream, like do it at the same time.
Yes.
But they are very expensive.
Yes.
And that is a if I blow up kind of thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things like I attempted it once, it didn't work. So we essentially just stayed here on Twitch, which is fine. There are free apps that do it, but they're not great. So
no,
they're not great. I'm looking for you. You did follow, and I'm trying to find where you follow so I can follow you. I want to follow.
I have two. I have So Weird Galactic, which is where I used to stream dice making videos, and then I have AstroAzure, which is where I was gaming, and that's probably the one I'm going to use.
Okay. So hold on a second. You know what? Put it in chat and I'll follow you.
All right.
So while you're doing that, do you DM at all? Do you, or you know, do not DM? Are there any plans?
No.
Why not?
I DM'd in high school, when we had a gaming club, and sorry, I am typing and trying to think at the same time.
Totally got it.
And I would DM at our gaming club, and did I forget the www? I sure did.
That's okay. I got the follow.
And I didn't like being responsible for the story. I liked writing along for the story.
Okay.
So I am a forever player.
So no plans to venture behind the screen at all?
No.
Really?
No, yeah, no, I don't like DMing.
Yeah, but no, don't like it. So
no.
This is fair. What was your reaction when TikTok made all the changes to the Creator Fund?
I am not in the Creator Fund. So I don't know. I'm not in the Creator Fund, so I don't know.
I'm not either. But you're huge on TikTok though. Like you have a massive following. Like
I have about 8,000 followers. I think.
Yeah, you have about 8,000 followers on TikTok, and like.
Oh, I suppose I didn't consider that massive.
Well, to me, anything. So okay, Sam brain. Anything above like 2,000 in my brain is massive.
That's fair.
Like
okay.
I don't. So as far as I'm concerned, you have 2,000 followers. You're big. I don't care what anyone says.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So yes, you have a massive following. About 8,000 followers and about 150 or 160 likes. I believe it's 100. Last time I checked, it was 165 or 169.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there, like so, close-ish to being in the Creator Fund. But even though you're not in the Creator Fund, TikTok has essentially, I guess, cut the legs out from their creators. Do you think this is going to affect the quote-unquote ban on TikTok in the US? And do you think that TikTok should backpedal and bring back the Creator Fund in order to bolster itself here in the United States?
I think it's one of those situations where it's like TikTok ain't great, but it's the best you got kind of feels. Because quite frankly, it is probably the easiest algorithm to manipulate.
Yes.
Whereas like Meta with like Facebook and Instagram, they like actively hide things.
Yes.
TikTok will do that too, but you can still go search those things out and like fix your algorithm, right? Whereas with Facebook and Meta is just like, I'm going to show you what I want to show you.
Right.
And too bad, so like, should they probably fix the Creator Fund? Yes. Will they? Probably not.
Right.
And like, as much as like, as bad as like the fix the fix to the Creator Fund is, like TikTok is still a better lifeline for a lot of people than like Facebook and Instagram, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to really affect people's feelings when it comes to the attempt to ban it, because let's be clear, that's effectively what they're trying to do.
Right.
So I don't think so, because like, to me, the biggest reason that TikTok is a threat to politicians is because people can get unfiltered news coverage through TikTok. So that's why I think it's more of a problem for them. Like, they're not actually worried about privacy, or they'd go after Meta. They're not actually worried about protecting our data, or they would go after American companies. This is purely you guys are getting organized through this app, and I don't like it.
Right.
So I don't think it'll affect the ban, but TikTok probably should be a little bit more careful because it's only a matter of time before the next big thing comes up. And, you know, you could turn to Facebook where people jump ship real fast because they don't like how it's going.
I launched myself off of Facebook. I was just like, I can't stand it here. Like, it was awful. Like, I couldn't take it.
I keep it strictly for checking in on people, and that is about it.
Yeah.
I accidentally made another Twitter account, and I can't remember my password, so I can't delete it. Because, like, I keep it to, like, go see what the Twitter drama is that's being talked on TikTok. And then that's all I do. I just go on Twitter to look at the drama, and then I back out slowly.
I love that everyone still calls it Twitter. I love it. I love that no one calls it X. Everyone still calls it Twitter because that's what it is.
Elon Musk gets no respect in this house, so absolutely not.
So, do you think that TikTok being so accessible to the masses is a double-edged sword? Because yes, we could get unfiltered information, but yes, we could get unfiltered information.
Oh yeah. Every time there's a, you know, something that happens with black folks that is harmful, I have to make it very clear, like, if I see you reposting that shit, I'm going to just block you.
Yes.
Like, I do not need to see it. It's definitely a double-edged sword because that also means you're easily discoverable by people who are gonna harass you, which is what happened to my friend. It's why I stopped doing lives, because, like, I'd be doing a live, my live would suddenly have, like, 300 people in it, and then I've got all these people calling me names, and, like, and then I'm getting in trouble because I'm telling them to choke on Legos and shit.
Choke on Legos.
I didn't say die. I just said choke. Okay, you can choke and not die.
True.
So it is definitely a double-edged sword where it's like, yes, you can organize more easily, but that also means, like, or Jory from Alluring Skull and Mercury Stardust do the TikTok-a-thon every year. Jory, it's her last year doing it because the harassment has gotten so bad she's stepping away.
Oh wow.
And Trolls got in the lives and got both their accounts banned from lives during the trans TikTok-a-thon.
Oh my god.
And it ended up hurting how much people were able to donate.
Right.
And actually, the Point of Pride, the charity that they used, their live also got banned for a while.
Really?
Like, they got all three cut. Like, they had like 4 or 5 accounts that were banned separately.
Jesus
during the trans talkathon because people were intentionally coming in to try to nuke it.
Yeah.
So yeah, unfortunately, where discovery can also be good, it can be bad.
Yeah, I'm quickly learning that I spent like the few weeks prior when I first discovered you and Meadow and all these different people. I know Meadow from before, but all these different people. I spent a lot of hours on TikTok deleting message after message. It was horrible. Like, I would not wish that on my...
Well, like, Mixel put out a video saying racism doesn't need to be in TTRPGs, it's lazy writing because it is.
Because it is lazy writing.
And has just, for the last, like, week and a half, just been like, racism is fine, what are you talking about? And I'm just like...
What?
Why do you need to oppress people so bad? Why do you need to do that?
What? Like, what? Okay, that makes no sense, but alright. When you first started making content, how did you overcome the anxiety and fear of being on camera, or did it come natural to you? Was it a thing for you? Like, were you like, oh, this is easy, I know what to do? Hi!
So I was on Twitter during the 2016 elections. TikTok was a breeze besides that. Like, I put up a tweet, I put up a Twitter post, where it was like, hey, your yearly reminder for all the, like, light-skinned and white people out there, don't say, I'm gonna get darker than you this summer, just because you get a little tan. And the amount of, my Italian ass is darker than you. 1, don't let the racism light fool you.
Right.
No, you're not. And 2, and you're still not black. So, like, fighting on Twitter was so much worse.
Really?
So much worse than TikTok.
It's not face to face. Well, TikTok isn't face to face, but your face is not in the, forefront.
For me, it's easier to have my face there because I do better. Like, so if you're typing, like, you can type and, like, delete a bunch of times, right?
Right.
If I'm just letting stream of consciousness happen when I'm telling you off, I'm much more likely to put it up. Right. And people particularly people who hide behind keyboards, are really uncomfortable when someone face to face will tell them to fuck off.
Right, right.
So what I found is those moments where I'm like especially if I make videos, people are less likely to come back and fight.
Right.
Because now I have visibly gone, you're a goofball.
Right.
Does it hurt being that stupid? And like, they're like, because like there was the one person on the Gabe Hicks video who was like, don't become a racist to white people. And I was like,
what?
And then they were like, well, I didn't say this, and that. And I was like, first of all, yes, you did. And I was like, I am argumentative, and you are giving me free content. So if you want to keep going, we can do that all day.
Like, I will get 10,000 views on this easy. Please keep coming.
But like, you're not gonna like it. And that person did not come back because I flat out told them, I was like, I will just make videos about you all day long. I don't care. I am disabled. I work from home. I have time.
Like, it's easy for me. So, well, that answers that question, but we're gonna like go toward the D&D section. Like, I want to talk a little bit more about D&D. So, WotC has, I know, I love, here's the thing. I am not a big Wizards of the Coast fan. As much as I love Dungeons and Dragons, Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast are horrible for D&D. I think they have
a match made in hell.
Yes, they have. I think they have smashed and grabbed D&D and tortured it to death. And in that, they have created the one D&D game, which to me has sanitized the ever-living crap out of it. I have read some of it, a lot of it. Mostly you're going, what the fuck? With the feat imbalances and the three spell list share thing, and it's just a lot of stuff. Do you agree with the direction they've gone in? One, and if not, where would you have taken it?
So there's some decisions I agree with. So like, the decision to not have Drow just be a statically evil race.
Yes.
That was a wild week on TikTok too.
Yes.
Because canonically, there have always been good Drow.
Right.
So why this was new information to people was baffling to me, because like Isla Stray has always existed, and cults of Isla Stray have always existed, specifically to counteract their brethren in Menzo Branson. So like, moving away from the inherent, like the bioessentialist, like this race is inherently evil with like the one few good ones trope, great decision. How they did it, but they got there, I guess. But like, I feel like when you have something as big as D&D and you keep fumbling it that badly, is wild. My husband's boss makes business decisions all the time where I look at him and go, is it crack? Is that what you're smoking? Because I'm like, from a business perspective, this doesn't make sense. And I have the knowledge in the background to go, from a business direction, this doesn't make sense.
That makes sense.
So like, there's a lot of times with WotC, I see you. I see Panda Cat. That's one of my friends.
Nice to meet you. Welcome in.
I see like the decisions WotC's making, and I'm like, you guys are fumbling the biggest bag in history.
Right.
And like, I know a lot of it is WotC, is a Hasbro.
Yes.
Because Hasbro just wants more content, more money.
Yes.
And they don't really understand the spirit that Dungeons and Dragons is. But WotC's big enough to say, no, that's not gonna work. If we keep doing this, we're going to lose the community. Like the OGL, when they tried to change the OGL, and everybody was like, what is your problem?
Well, the thing with the OGL, and this is my opinion, them trying to lock down the OGL was their way of going, yes, make your homebrews, but we wanted to make profit off of your homebrews.
Which they already do, because they just steal them anyway.
Right, they take them anyway. They wash, rinse, and repeat it, so that the soul is taken out of it, and they do it anyway. But they didn't want you to have your credit. So with the backlash, they decided that no, they had to backpedal. So that's what I think would happen. But what would you have done if you were in charge of the whole shebang?
If I were in charge, number one, I would have sensitivity writers on hand every single time a module would get released.
Right.
Every single time, because they had them for Tasha's.
Yes.
And then like it came to Spelljammer, and all of a sudden they were gone.
Which is weird.
And we get the Hadozi.
I didn't get it.
So you cannot consistently have not have sensitivity writers, because this is what's gonna happen. The OGL, like homebrews have always been a thing. So trying to I would have been like, we ain't touching the OGL. That's a real big way for people to just, honestly, if WotC could do it, I would break from Hasbro.
Ooh.
I would walk away from Hasbro because, so Baldur's Gate 3, right? Huge success. Unfortunately, they put Mike Mearls on the project, which is why there's so much racism in Baldur's Gate 3.
Right.
But Larian has said, we're not making DLC, and we're not making Baldur's Gate 4. And that's partially because a lot of the people who worked with Larian from WotC were fired after Baldur's Gate 3 came out.
Right.
So Larian can read the room and go, nope, you don't want any more of this. Nope.
Well, they just put out a statement. Larry just put out a statement and said, that's not why we left.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They put out a whole statement about, that's not why we left. We left because under, it was mutual. We just felt that our time there was up and we were going in a different direction. That's what they put out.
Damage control.
Yeah.
Got it. So, I would break from Hasbro. I would basically enshrine the OGL as never touching this ever again. I would have sensitivity writers. I'd have better writers because honestly, a lot of the writing in the modules is just lazy, and DMs have to do so much wake-up work. I'm like, there are enough good writers. Hit the homebrew community and have them on as freelancers for writing some of this stuff. Have a space where that happens. WotC really truly does not realize how strong the community behind them is, and they keep proving that time and again. And if they would just lean on the community and not the corporate side of things, they'd be so much better off.
Right. I mean, a lot of time, we have so many great GMs. Neo's one of them. Robert Hartley's another one. I forget his name from their name from Dork Tales, but Dork Tales is another one. Where they have such great writing that a lot of times people will apply and they go, no, we're good, and it's insane to me. You're turning down what?
Have a freelancer program where you're willing to pay people for their homebrews and properly credit them, and that takes pressure off of your writing team on the front end too, because then you basically have another side community you can go to and you're not burning out. But we unfortunately live in this culture where it's pump out content as fast as possible, regardless if it's good or not, and it's hurting everybody.
Right. I agree. I totally agree. So I have a question. I know you said you were never DM, that you're never gonna do it, but if you ever decided somewhere in the distant portal future, you dropped through a portal, you decided to do it, what would your style be, do you think?
Oh, it'd be mayhem.
Really?
It would be absolute. So I have this thing with Neo where as a player, my goal is to make his jaw drop in shock at least once a game. So my character Kamaya was a Dhampir undead warlock. And I shifted to a celestial warlock because being an undead warlock and doing all necrotic damage doesn't really work on undead.
No.
And one day we were trying to get to Kresk because Irina had left the party and we wanted to get to her before Strahd did. And Strahd shows up with a whole bunch of wolves and freaking Spawn on his goddamn flaming horse. And then he mutated my husband's character, because he's a werebear barbarian, into a feral bear. So that was a problem. So I'm just we had a week or two, because we'd taken a break to figure out what to do. And I was got it. So my character at the time did not know where her new powers were coming from.
Okay.
So in game, Kamaya reached out to try to find the source of power, and did. And found the entity and was like, I'm here to make a deal with you because we need help now, right now.
Okay.
Because if those Spawn get past us and make it to Kresk is going to be in trouble. We can't fight Strahd, a flaming horse, a horde of Spawn, and a deranged bear. That's just not happening.
I mean, so we could, but we die.
Take my undeath and turn it into light.
Ooh.
And he was like, what? I was like, Kamaya is offering for this entity to take her undeath and use it to power the daylight spell into something useful that they can use right away. And so Neo let me be Nightskin.
Nice.
As a result, yes, I was so I know Neo fairly well now, so I was like, he's either gonna let me be human or Nightskin. Bet. Maybe Asmar, but definitely one of those two. So as soon as he's like, you can be Nightskin, I was like, I'm Leo, thank you. I was already ready.
I'm already ready, thank you.
So what ended up happening was this entity, who turned out being the Nightskin god of death, took Kamaya's shadow and caused a basically beam of light from it to open up sunlight in Barovia for the first time. That the entire realm could see, a big enough breach in the mist that everybody could see the sunlight. And just ashed all the spawn, and then like the wolves ran off, and Strahd was like, "Ha, okay." And then we had to fight my husband's character because he was still angry werebear man. So like,
wait, you had to fight your own party member?
Yeah, well, yeah. He had Strahd dominated him.
Oh wow. Okay, gotcha.
My husband, all strength, no charisma. So, like, my character is the least likely to get dominated in the party because my charisma is 18. So like, and Strahd knows that. So Strahd doesn't come after me like that. So he goes for my friends.
Right.
So we had to fight my husband's character, but like that's the kind of stuff I would do where it would just be like, you think you know what's going on, but do you really? And then like Neo gets me right back where like I finally like reached back out and I was like, hey, who are you? Because I don't know who you are. And I was like, oh, it's just the Nightskin god of death. And I was like, excuse me, what?
Like, excuse me?
So like I like that style of like not putting people on their toes in a stressful way, but that like hang on the edge of your seat of, oh my gosh, what's happening now?
Oh, that's awesome.
So like if I were to DM, that's what I would do, where I'm just like twist and turns and lots of plot hooks for your characters. Let's go.
Well, that answers the next question, but what's your favorite setting? Like your most recent favorite setting? Because I was gonna say ask you if it's gonna be homebrews or modules. We already know that modules are not the best. So, of the homebrews that you've been playing, what is your favorite setting?
Probably Neo's Curse of Strahd campaign. And that's just because, again, it's taken something that's really, really icky and made it much, much better. I love the Hillard stuff, though, too.
Love Hillard.
That Hillard is so good. Like, oh my gosh.
So good. It's like amazing. Like, for people who don't know, Neo Soul God is a GM here on Twitch. He's also on TikTok, but he streams here at Twitch a lot of his games, and he has a homebrew for the first magical HBCU, which I thought the damn freaking movie's gonna be about. HBCU. Right. And it freaking rocks. Like, it is so cool. It's so much fun to watch. I remember in the very first episodes where characters were growing inside of classrooms. They were like super long. I was like, what is happening? It was so much fun. So guys, please check it out.
And then Neo also did a Final Fantasy XIV based homebrew, where somebody had written like all the jobs from Final Fantasy XIV as D&D classes. So we took that, and again, I was like, I shouldn't go in there and do stuff. And then my husband was like, if you don't start playing with us, so help me God. So I joined the last 2 sessions of that, because that was a short run. But like that was really fun, like just running around in TTRPG as my Final Fantasy XIV character. Like I believe he's bringing back Skies of Aranis too.
Is he really?
Yeah, oh, wow. They were just yelling at him about that last night, or maybe it was 2 nights ago. One of those times they were yelling at him and were like, bring back Skies of Aranis. So I think Skies of Aranis might come back, which for those of you who don't know was a like steampunk, like islands in the sky kind of.
I never seen that one.
It was fun. So my bestie was in that one, and my bestie is Chaos Incarnate. All of their characters are Chaos Incarnate. And Neo wrote a homebrew class for the homebrew race for mer people that's way better. And so my friend was an orca mer person, whose whole thing was no punch, only suplex.
No punch, only suplex.
And just was like suplexing people all over the place. And just like that one was really good too. Very like steampunk, very like you know, airships in the sky. So that one should be coming back,
Oh, that's so.
and I'm very excited about that.
I'm starting to think I need to bring Neo back in the channel so we can have some discussions here about what's going on. So your table's going to be chaotic, obviously. But do you, as a player, do you have any regrets or mistakes that you've made?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like whenever you're playing with people, particularly if you don't know them well, there are boundaries you can cross.
Yes.
That, you know, even if it's not intentional, right? Or like, I kind of regret all the time I spent at like tables that didn't really honor what I was bringing.
Right.
Because like I was so ready to just like fully throw myself in, and instead we're doing a war game simulator, and it was like, this is boring.
Yeah, it is. It's so boring. Yeah, I don't. If I want to do war games, I'll play Call of Duty. Like,
right. Like I regret not putting up boundaries sooner with people, and like really respecting what I do bring to the table.
Right.
Which is like, my head's always going a mile a minute. I've got ADHD, so like
Same.
I've got thoughts going in there just ping ponging all over the place.
Right.
And like, one of the ways I used to really like cope with like all the stress when I was a kid was I would hear music and make stories in my head. So like the Fire Emblem game on Game Boy Advance, like there was a music box function on there where like you could play music from the game. So I had my OC character in that game.
Right.
So like, I am very good with just rolling on the fly and pivoting my character. And this is the first time I've really gotten to do that in a way that's been meaningful and has really made me feel like seen and respected as a person. And I wish that I would have fought for that harder sooner. Like, I shouldn't have had to, but
so with that in mind, how do you deal as a player? Because I know how DMs tend to deal with it, but as a player, when you get someone who either is not respecting boundaries or decides that they know more of the game, or is a rules attorney, a rules lawyer at the table, how do you deal with that person?
It kind of depends. So if it's a dude, because this happens quite frequently, I'll ask them, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but the old armor system,
right,
in like 2 Point. Oh, Thaco. Do you know what Thaco is?
Yes,
Tell me
I
what
hate,
Thaco is
hate,
right now.
Hate Thaco.
We all hate Thaco, but it's a really good litmus test for crunchy dudes,
right,
to see when they started playing, because they'll go, Thaco, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I've been playing longer than you. Go away. And then, so we actually had a player at our table, at Neo's table, that we, again, ended up having to boot because they were not respecting boundaries, and they had a problem with me for some reason. Like, and I didn't want to think about it, but then my friend and Moro and my husband all independently went to each other and went, you're seeing this, right? And then came to me and were like, you're seeing this, right? And we're not sure what it was or why. Like, they were very much so like, you take up too much time at the table. So like, there was a session where like I scaled it back significantly. I think I talked to people for like 5 minutes whole night, and they still came at me at the end of the session. And then we had a thing happen where there was a piece of information we were trying to get from somebody who was a pretty key NPC. And we realized very quickly, if they remembered, that they would die. Like, there was a curse on this piece of information. And so we made it very clear as players, we don't want to push for this information. We'll figure it out another way.
Right.
And this player, after being told by the entire party we're not doing this, did it anyway, which led to 20 minutes of scrambling trying to fix it. So like, my character goes toward the jeweler, who is basically her adopted granny at this point, to get a diamond, and they're trying to prep for Revivify, and like, we had the capacity to deal with it, but it was like not something we needed to do.
Right.
And then when we stopped the session after that, and when we were talking to her about it, we were just like, we all said no. Yeah. We all very clearly multiple times said no. Why? And well, we needed the info. We could have figured it out. Like, and then like, they just like stopped showing up on time or stopped showing up at all.
Okay.
And so like as a group we were like, there was the after Strahd mutated my husband's character and we were gonna have to fight him. Like that was gonna be a big fight and they just didn't show up.
Oh, wow.
So we couldn't do it. Neo had to completely rewrite the encounter because they were a paladin and were our main tank aside from my husband. So like we couldn't have done that encounter without them. And so at that point we were like, we need to part ways. Like with this, we need, and then like they didn't take that boundary well at all either. Like we had our Final Fantasy. We had our Final Fantasy 14 game like that Saturday, and she sent out a copy paste message to all of us, basically being like, "You have to let me back in." And I'm glad Neo was late because I had a panic attack. I was like, I can't. And then that ended up getting derailed because of that. And so it was just like we ended up like having to just like block her on everything.
Oh wow!
But it was just like that was also really good too in a way because that was the first time I saw my table really come together to like protect me. Because in past tables, like the people that my husband and I played with before, like they would do that, but they would intentionally gang up on me. And so seeing everybody like come together to be like, no, cut it out and like protect me. Oh, no worries. Was really good and really like helped me kind of like really realize that I could just be myself at the table and it wasn't going to be a problem.
Right.
So in a way, I'm kind of grateful for the experience because it showed that like there are tables where people will be like, no, we're not doing this. And
that's it. That's boundaries. Yeah. Boundaries are a thing. So off of that, what is one of the most important life lessons you learned from gaming in general? Not just Dungeons and Dragons, but gaming in general.
Boundaries.
Yeah.
Like I used to play StarCraft competitively, and that was back when like you being femme would get you kicked out of rooms. So like I would not tell anybody in chats because but eventually I ended up making friends who would roll with me and I was the best player on the squad. So like, you know, people would be like, you're cheating. And I'm like, nope, I'm just a girl. I can multitask. And so like I learned to get people around me who I knew were safe and then do what I was doing anyway.
Right.
Like one of my favorite ones was my ex-husband used to play Halo Reach all the time. And like I would play with him too, and I wasn't terrible. I wasn't good, but I wasn't terrible.
Right.
And I got a voice message from somebody being like, "Oh, you're only playing so that your husband will bang you later." And I was like, and I looked at him like I'm a spiteful bitch. So like when I hear shit like that, I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna be your fucking problem now."
Wow.
So I looked at him and I was like, "Train me. Let's go."
Wow.
So he did nothing but take me through SWAT for like a week. Which, if for those of you who don't play Halo, SWAT's a game mode where it's only headshots and no shields.
Yeah.
So, like, we just did SWAT for, like, a week or two straight. And by the time I was done with that, I was so good with the sniper rifle that I was making it onto Rooster Teeth.
Jesus Christ.
And we ended up finding her again. And I went, and everybody knew her gamer tag, and I was like, mine. So I just spent the entire match just steamrolling her. And I was like, what was that again? Like, one of the things I've learned about myself is the fastest way to get me to be really good at something is to tell me I can't do it.
Right.
Because now I have to prove you wrong.
Right.
So learning to like gather people that can protect me and learning that like if I apply myself, I'm probably going to be better than a lot of people at it. So, and again, I was playing competitive gaming like in the early 2000s when, you know, the Xbox streets were wild.
Look, I used to play Halo like a crazy person all the time, and then this one day I was just like, why am I doing this? It's a lot. Like, it became a lot. Like, I would miss work because of it. Like, that's enough. You know?
Well, and like, I've also learned too that, yeah, there's lots of assholes out there, but there's always going to be at least some nice people too. Because there was one day I was doing SWAT, and it was like to 50 would win, and out of 50 kills, I had 36. And so I get a voice message, and I'm like, oh, shit. And it's this dude, and he's like, you're really good. Can I play with you again?
Oh, wow.
And so I joined the chat, and I was like, he was like, you're really, really good. Holy shit. And I was like, hi, thank you. And he's like, you're a girl. And I was like, oh,
crap.
That's so cool, and you're that good. And I was just like,
oh, that's so sweet.
I was just like, this was absolutely not what I thought was happening today. Thank you.
Okay.
And like became one of my good gaming buddies. Like,
that's awesome.
So like for every bad person, there's always a good person too. And so don't let the assholes keep you from a community, because when you find your people, it'll be great.
Oh yeah, 100% agree. Which is really, really cool because, like I said, I was on TikTok. I've been on TikTok for a while, like around since the pandemic. Um, Mostly because I work for the fire department, so
Mm-hmm.
I needed something else to do that wasn't that, and I was stuck at 1,000 followers for the longest time. And then this community happened where it's like, oh, hello, new people. So but the hello, new people brings me to pinned on your TikTok page is for lack of a better name for it, a boundaries video. What made you decide to pin that to your page for people coming to your page?
Because then if people like, being black in any space, people are going to ignore boundaries. Being femme in any space, people are going to ignore boundaries. When you're both, people are extra going to ignore boundaries. I talk a lot on my TikTok about being chronically ill and disabled because it's a big part of my life.
Right.
And so what will often happen is, like, I had very clearly stated it for probably a month, like, do not give me medical advice. Like, you don't have access to my charts. You're not my doctor. I don't know if you're a doctor. Don't give me medical advice unless I explicitly ask for medical
Right.
advice. And, like, in general, don't give me advice unless I explicitly ask for it.
Right.
And so people ignored that. Like, I have chronic migraines and people are like, well, do this, and that. And I'm like, how do you know I'm not already doing that?
And
You don't. Or for a while we were having a problem where my resin space, it was in the basement and was underneath the bathroom downstairs.
Okay.
And so, like, if the shower or the tub was running, water would drip down onto my space and that could ruin stuff.
Wow.
So, like, I lost molds because, like, water had dripped down and ruined the face of the mold. And so, like, I was venting about it and somebody kept trying to give me advice on how to, like, fix it. And I'm like, you're talking to me as if I haven't already considered these things.
Right.
You don't live in the house. Why are you doing this?
Do you think that's a phenomenon of TikTok, though? Because it seems to happen a lot. Like, a lot of people will put something in chat or in comment section and say do this or do that without the full, complete picture, not really knowing if you had already done that. Do you think that's a TikTok thing or just a people thing?
I think people are well-intentioned a lot of the time. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes, I think you don't know as much as me because you're this, or that. But I think that the thing that people who do that don't understand is you don't know what's going on in the background of that situation. So unless somebody is explicitly asking for advice, you don't know if they've tried the thing you're going to mention. Like, my friend, Whitney, was trying to make glitter cores, and that was my specialty with dice, was making the glitter liquid core dice, and was having issues with floating glitter. So I texted her and I was like, do you want advice on how to do that or not?
Right.
And, like, reached out and was like, I'm happy to give it. If not, that's cool. And she wanted the advice, so I gave her advice.
Right.
Like, it's always better to me to ask instead of just being like, advice.
Yeah, like,
because, like, again, you don't know what I'm doing. Like, I've been struggling medically my entire life. I've gone to doctors, like, pretty much in every single specialty at this point. Like, I was going to school for anthropology, so I have a very good working knowledge of the human body between those two things. Like, you're probably not going to tell me anything I don't know.
Right. So,
and, like, in particular with black femmes and black women, like, getting medical advice, particularly from white people with medical racism, is extra, like, it grates me extra hard. Because it's like, I already have to deal with medical racism and doctors not believing me. I do not need some random stranger on the internet trying to tell me what I should do.
Right.
When I have to deal with medical racism. Go away.
I get it. So, in your personal opinion, this is completely up to you. Being a content creator, like I said, you're big on TikTok. I know you don't think you are, but you are. You have over 2,000 followers. That's just a look. You have over 2,000 followers. You're big on TikTok. Hush.
All right.
So, what is an important personality trait or strength that you think someone would need to work in that industry, being a content creator and being successful at it? Also, be a successful artist as well.
Just be honest. Like, just be true to yourself, because, like, a lot of people will put on personas, and those type of people I choose not to follow, because when you put on a persona, like, and that may get you tons of followers, and that just may be your content, and that's fine. It's different, like, if you're doing skits and stuff, that's one thing.
Right.
But the people, for instance, like Candace Owens, like the grifters,
Oof.
like the people who intentionally put on these different personas just to get likes, views, and clicks
Yeah.
and followers, like, that is one of the reasons I think that internet culture is so toxic, because those kinds of folks just foster that.
Right.
I think it's way more important to be an honest, like, true to yourself representation on the internet, because then, like, you meet somebody out in the wild who recognizes you, they're not getting a different person. Because, like, I've been in that boat where I've seen somebody out in the wild who on the internet, and then, like, they're a jerk.
Yes.
And I'm like,
oh, that sucks.
what?
Yeah.
Like, it's so jarring when, like,
It's
you're
so
like,
jarring.
you're this entity on this, and here you're a jerk. What the hell?
Like, this doesn't match. These things don't go together. What is going on, and why are you like this?
Right.
You know.
So, like, for me, it's like, I've had people who have found me, like, at cons and like, oh, we follow you on TikTok and you're the exact same person. And I'm like, yes.
Yep.
I want people to see, like, what you see is what you get.
Yep, that's it. That makes sense. So, as an artist, as someone who consistently does art as business and obviously as for your own enjoyment, do you think that you need to have some type of personality to be able to turn your art into a business?
Oh yeah, business is very much so based on, like, personality, because, like, at the end of the day, no matter, like, if you're, like, especially if, like, you're a sole proprietor like me, at the end of the day, you're selling yourself.
Right.
Because people are going to be, oh, thank you. I was like, you're the sweetest bean in person. I was like, I'm not a jerk outside of the internet, I swear. I'm only a jerk to people who deserve it, I swear to God.
That's not the way it's supposed to be, though. Like, look, people. We had this conversation a couple streams back when I think we were doing homebrew, guys, but where I am pretty much a cool, like, crazy person, like ADHD, doesn't pay attention, totally distracted on stream. If you're able to do it, and most of the time Chad's able to do it. However, if there's an emergency, I become Mean Sam. It's all of a sudden, it's like, just do the thing and shut up.
And, like, it comes back to, like, as a business, like, again, I'm putting myself on the internet. If I'm running a business and I am one way on the internet, and then people come to my, like, I'm at a convention and I'm a completely different person, they're less likely to buy from me.
Right.
Because you don't seem like you're a genuine person at that point. You seem like you're putting on an act. So, like, it's super important as an artist and as a person to be consistent. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of fall through. And, like, there's people who their persona online is them being a jerk, and then, like, they're the nicest people in real life, right?
Right.
And that's one thing. But, like, again, when you put on this persona of being a nice person, and then I met Mercury Stardust, actually. She was at AMP last year, and she stopped by my booth, and I'm just bubbling like a dumbass because I'm just so excited to meet her. I show her videos to my daughter so that she can see that there's happy trans adults, you know?
Yeah.
And she ended up buying dice from me because I had a trans pride dice set, and, like, I'm like bubbling and sobbing because I'm like, you mean so much to everybody. And she was the same exact person that you see online. She is that person in real life. She is so sweet. And that was, like, one of those really good ones. And then, like I said, I've had the flip side where, like, Mike Bibby, a basketball player, came into my GameStop one day. I didn't know who he was because I don't watch the NBA because I think they're mostly a bunch of crybabies.
Right. Yeah.
So he came in my store with, like, his posse, and, like, I'm working. I don't know who you are. And people are, like, running in to, like, take pictures and ask for autographs. And I'm like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah, I don't care.
And he was upset.
Oh, really?
That I did not know who he was. He was mad.
Out of
and
all
I'm just
those
like,
people taking pictures of him, he's upset at you.
Yeah, he was mad because, like, I'm watching him and I'm like, I did my standard, hey, welcome to GameStop, let me know if you need anything kind of greeting. And he was, like, miffed that I did not know who he was. And, like, one of the dudes in his posse was like, oh, thank you for, you know, you know, blah, 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 and like was really, really nice about it. It was like, thanks, we're gonna leave now. And I was like, okay, thanks, bye. And then somebody, like one of my regulars comes and goes, yo, Mike Bibby was in here. I was like, oh, that's who that was? Oh.
Okay.
Oops. Or like, our city used to do a program with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Okay.
Where kids could play on the court before the games, and then they get free tickets to the games.
Oh, cool.
And I played twice, and then I coached once to do that. And it was I think it was the Knicks and the Bucks were playing.
Okay.
And this was back during like Ray Allen, like way the
fuck
fuck back.
Okay.
Yeah, no, way the fuck back. And we were sitting watching them warm up before we played. The Bucks ignored our existence, pretended these little children watching them wide-eyed were not there. The Knicks players came up and talked to us.
Wow.
Yes, so yeah, like these little kids are watching their hometown team like not interact with them, and then these players from out of town are like interacting with these kids.
Right.
And I was like, that always stuck with me. Like you're supposed to be the hometown. Like what? The Bucks now? The Bucks now, they are super into the community.
Right.
My mom's school that she teaches at, they like did a whole program where they like built a playground for the kids and like a really nice court for them. The Bucks now are super into Milwaukee, and awesome. I think that's really cool.
That is awesome.
And in fact, when I was working at the pet store like 10 years ago, one of the Bucks players came in with like, he was like, I bought a Yorkie for my girlfriend and I don't know what to do. Can you help me? I was like, absolutely. Like, it was the cutest thing. So I'm like, I'm glad we switched from that culture of like, I'm an athlete, I'm hot shit, I don't have to talk to anybody, to now like athletes really being into their communities. I think so much better.
That's so cool. So happy Barbarian voices. I'm sorry, I got a little thrown off a little bit, but it's always been my belief that people who are content creators, whether it's TTRPG, whether it's D&D, just acting, whatever it is that they do for content, that they are undiscovered directors, producers, actors. Where do you see yourself in these roles, and do you plan on expanding on them in the future?
Listen, if anyone wants to give me voiceover work, I am right here. Right here. I mean, anytime you're a solo business owner, you're wearing all the hats. Like, I think people really don't understand what goes into like maintaining a business on your own, because you are HR, you are your boss, you are, you know, the manager, you are the person making all the stuff. So you're the production line, you're the social media team, like so much. And in content creation, it's the same thing, right? Like for the most part, I try to like stream of consciousness things. But like there's times where like I'm like, I need to re-record and like come back more coherent. So like you have to really be on your toes and like really work on like be willing to like fill all those roles, right? And one thing I do love about social media is it's made things like voiceover work more accessible, because it's made it so that people can be discovered. And but like I would love to do more actual plays. I was with Daisy, formerly Mr. Kurtwise, on an actual play, and that was a ton of fun, and I met really cool people as a result. So I'm always down to do more actual plays. I'm always down to play with new people. Like, I would love to do more TTRPG stuff publicly.
I think Twin Tree 4 says that you would be fantastic as a director. Get it done! So a lot of people will say that if you're starting D&D, you kind of have to ease into it, you know, take it easy. What advice would you give someone who wants to jump into the deep end of it?
Do not accept bad tables. There was a content creator who had asked this question, a Black woman, a couple months back, and I answered her then. I said, understand that you will not be safe at every table, and accept nothing less than your total security at a table. Because how the other people you play with shape the experience you have with TTRPGs. And if you're playing at a table of assholes, you're gonna have a bad time. And I know that from experience. If you're playing at a table with a bunch of people who are mutually interested in telling a story that's riveting for everyone involved, you are gonna have an amazing time. So don't accept anything less. And sometimes you just might not vibe with people, and it's okay to walk away from the table because you're just not vibing. Like, that's okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's a bad table. It's just not your table. So like find a table where you are totally secure and safe and where you feel seen and heard, and don't settle for anything less than that.
That's where that's 100% fair, 100% right. A lot of people say that their influences are people that they know. Like people will say, "Well, my biggest influence is, I don't know, Whitney Houston or whatever." What is one of your biggest influences that people have never heard of?
So there was a book series called Redwall
Okay.
when I was growing up. I was the biggest Redwall fan.
Oh, really?
I have every single book. I actually have autographed books because he came to Milwaukee
Ooh.
and was at Barnes and Noble's reading, and I couldn't be there because I was in college and I didn't have a ride down. But my mom actually went, put her phone on speaker so I could hear him speaking, and then got my books autographed.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I am a huge fan. Now, there's some things in that, like, I've, as an adult and like thinking critically about it, like bioessentialism is really big in the Redwall series, which is not great. But knowing that, like, I love, one of the great things about the Redwall series is that small people could do big things.
Yes.
So like, you know, you'd have these mice who were warriors and like saving the abbey. And there was so much effort around collaborative and community uplifting and communities coming together to like fight greater evils. And so I really like to take that into, yes, Brian Jakes. That is one of my favorite childhood memories. I wasn't a kid, but that was one of my favorite memories, is like listening to him tell a story on my mom's phone. And like, that was back in the like early 2000s. So it was not good audio quality.
Right.
But it happened, and I could say that I heard him talk, you know? But I love the idea in Redwall that like, if a community comes together with one ideal, that they can move mountains.
Yes.
So that's one of my biggest influences, and the Redwall series are just fun. Like,
now I want to go look it up because I'm a big, like, as you can see with this crap behind me, all the books, I'm a big reader. Like, I have books for almost damn near everything. So like, I have a book about the Astors, like, for Christ's sake. How many editions of D&D have you played? Like, and what's your favorite so far?
See, I played 2nd, 3rd, 3.5, 4th, and 5th.
What's your
so
favorite?
5.
5 is your favorite?
Probably 5th ed, and that's only because I think it's the most accessible edition.
Okay.
2nd edition had Thakos, so that was not accessible by any means. 3rd and 3.5 were good, but really crunchy for people who hadn't kind of stepped in.
Right.
5th ed is uniquely good at simplifying it down, distilling it down for the new people, and yet still kind of being crunchy for the people who want to get crunchy.
Right.
And so I'm a warlock main. I usually play a warlock. And I need them to start doing more warlock subclasses that are not just edgelord.
Yeah.
But I do like the celestial warlock is well done, and that's what I'm playing now.
Okay.
And then Neo actually wrote some invocations for celestial warlocks, some homebrew invocations that I use that make it even better.
Okay.
So I think 5th ed is really good for people. It's a good middle ground for everybody, where it's easy enough for new people to pick up, but crunchy enough for the people who really want to like min-max and get into it, in a way that older editions just really didn't have.
They didn't have it, yeah. So outside of D&D and all this other stuff, what other games do you enjoy doing for pastimes type of stuff?
I play a lot of Palia.
Okay.
Because it is very cozy, and my anxiety is through the roof right now, and it is very not anxiety inducing because there's literally no timetable, anything. You just do whatever you want, and it's fine.
What is this?
Palia. It's an MMO where it's like so you're a human in a world where humans have disappeared, and you just show up out of magical blue out of one day.
Okay.
And the first character you meet is an Afro elf. She's Gina is adorable. She's got 2 little Afro puffs. I love her. And it's this whole town of like the Majiri, who are like these purple skinned elven folk. And they're very much like, most of them are not white coated, which is really nice.
Okay.
And then there's the Grimalkin, which are like cat people. So you meet Zeki, who's a Grimalkin, and then there's Galder, which are like organic androids. They're like robots.
Okay. Okay.
And the whole thing is that humans disappeared thousands of years ago, and all of a sudden, with your appearance, humans are showing back up again, and nobody knows why.
Right.
So you get archaeological mystery, which I am all here for.
Oh.
Because like you're trying to figure out what happened to the humans and why they disappeared.
Okay.
You get all the best things about crafter games, like you get to build a house, you get to build furniture, you get to get a garden.
Oh.
You get like all the mining, and you can do fishing, and like there's no timetable on any of it. Like you can build relationships with people in the town, you can have romances, but there's literally no pressure to do anything.
Gotcha.
Like you do anything you want at your own pace.
So it's literally just calming, no anxiety, just chill.
Super cozy. It's in open beta right now, so it's still a little wild. Bahari Bay has been a little broken for a while, but that's fine. So I play a lot of that. I play Final Fantasy 14. I'm waiting for Dawn Trail. I have all my classes at 90, so I'm just sitting here waiting for Dawn.
I haven't played Final Fantasy since like 10.
I literally have never played another Final Fantasy game besides this one.
Really?
So they make all these references, and I'm like, that's cool. I like the music. So I do a lot of that. I was playing Assassin's Creed Mirage, but due to like what's going on in the world, I haven't really been able to pick that up again.
Yeah, I played it during what was going on, specifically because I wanted to highlight that the Arab world can be an adventure world without it being what everyone else thinks it is. So
yeah, I'm a huge fan. I have an Assassin's Creed tattoo on my chest that I've had for like 15 years, actually. I think.
I have every Assassin's Creed game. I've played every single one. I'm a huge Assassin's Creed fan. Like, every time a game comes out, I play. Even though some people criticize that it's not Assassin's Creed.
One of my friends on Facebook is one of the voice actors for Origin, and when I found out, I lost my goddamn mind. She, you know the huntress in the marsh that protects the albino alligator?
Yes.
She does her voice. I screamed so loud, and I was like, "Let me show you my tattoo!"
Oh my god!
I was like, I know one of the people who worked on this game.
I would lose my mind.
I lost my mind. I love Assassin's Creed so much. I will not touch Odyssey because this is my home is an anti-ancient Greece home.
Okay, so I get it. I get so many people who are fans of Assassin's Creed say the same thing. They won't touch Odyssey because it's anti-Greece. I will say this, because I've played, like I said, every single game, regardless of the fact of where it's located. Despite it being in Greece, it is, for the canon character, the female character.
Yes.
It's a really good game.
Yes. And I'm not going to say it's not a good game.
No, only because of her. That's the only reason.
Ancient Greece is my hill to die on. I do not do that. Or I didn't play Valheim, but that's because my husband's Swedish.
Okay.
So I was like, I'm going to give that one to you because that's your people. Go have fun. So, but I watched him play, so I was like, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
But other than that, I haven't gotten into the Chronicles. I need to do the Chronicles, and I didn't play the French Revolution one or the Victorian England one, but that's because they were broken when they first came.
They are still very much broken, but I will still play them to the camel's come. Like, I still go back and play them. Like, they have a lot of like online co-op stuff. No one's there. You know, there's no one there, but I'm like I'll still click on it and still play it by myself. It's still fun.
And then I play the Subnautica games.
Okay.
Because I love deep ocean. You will never catch me in a submarine, but I do love the deep ocean because it gets weird down there.
Okay.
And so I love playing Subnautica because that's my way of doing deep ocean exploration without me actually having to go do it.
Right.
And then Warframe, I was really big into Warframe. I haven't really touched it much lately, but that's because I've been playing Palia because people get weird on Warframe.
Yeah.
And Devil May Cry. I'm a huge fan of the Devil May Cry series.
Okay.
Except for DMC. Mimi Antonatus can go fuck himself for that one.
Really?
It was before 5. It was between 4 and 5.
Okay.
They tried to do like a reskin, or a reboot of Devil May Cry, and it was a good. If it was not a Devil May Cry game, it would have been good. But Dante was like some edgelord teenager who just like cussed and like swore at shit, and I'm like, he's not funny. Dante's hilarious. like what the hell is happening? And then like
that?
Virgil wasn't his brother, or he was his like cousin or some shit. It was weird.
Okay.
It was really weird. I was like, I don't know who greenlit this, but no.
Like bad.
And they fixed it because Devil May Cry 5 came out, and Devil May Cry 5 is great. And actually,
Okay,
Devil May Cry
good.
5 came out when my fibro onset.
Okay.
And I had to use a cane for a long time. And one of the characters that you play, V, is actually disabled and has to use a cane to get around, and uses like magic and magical animals to like fight for him. So it came out at a really pivotal time for me, because seeing a character who was battling chronic fatigue and like having to use a cane, but still whooping ass, like helped me so much.
Right. So I mean, I get it. That makes sense. If you could cut it out. I'm getting like bit here for no particular reason other than she can. Come on up. Come on. Come on up. Good girl. There's a good girl. Okay. So if you could sit down and play D&D with anyone, dead or alive, real or fiction, who would it be?
Nichelle Nichols.
Up to 6 people.
Definitely Nichelle Nichols. Because from what I heard, she was a huge nerd. And I think it'd be really fun. I would try to talk my mom into it. My mom is a closet nerd. So like super closet nerd. But like she's like, I want to cosplay. I'm like, Mom, I will sew you the outfits. I will make the clothes for you. That's fine. I would love to play with Brendan Lee Mulligan.
Okay.
And Lou Williams and Abria.
Okay.
Like basically just pick people from Dimension 20 and I'm in. And then I would probably say for a 6th person, probably my daughter.
Really? Okay.
Because that girl's brain is wild. And the shenanigans that would happen. Like, we're trying to get to a point where both my kids are old enough that we can, like, ease them into, like, baby D&D.
Right.
Because they're both dice goblins already. Like,
okay.
My son has dice that I've made just stashed everywhere.
That's awesome.
Like, they're just, like, you just like, oh, there's another die. So, like, I want to get my kids, like, my son's a little too young yet. He's going to be 4 in July. My daughter's going to be turning 11 in June. So, like, I'm like, if we can find, like, more, like, kids we can play with, we can do, like, a kid campaign.
Right. But one of the questions from Haley, what is your favorite part of candle making and also a favorite part of doing art?
My favorite part of candle making is watching the wax melt. And then watching the colors go into the wax. Like, it's a lot of fun. I really, really liked it. Like, I think I'm just a cat in human skin sometimes, because I'm just like, I watch it and I go, pretty colors, pretty. And then my favorite thing about making art is just getting to do stuff that I didn't have. Like, putting energy I would have loved when I was younger out into the world, and seeing that energy is received well.
Right.
Like, making a space that I didn't have so that other people have that space.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I like that answer. So while we're waiting for other questions to come out, for people to ask questions, tell everyone what we can expect from you in the future, from Azure, the person, from your brand, with your art, and for D&D, for everything that you have in the future.
I'm hoping to get into more actual plays, so I'm going to try to be more present in the community and get into more actual plays. I know we're talking about doing my husband's planning on running the Icewind Dale module, because we had started it way back when, and the group fell apart because of a fragile white man again. So we may be streaming that one on my Twitch channel.
Awesome.
Because we were planning on doing the Into the Mist, but we're so far in now that I think it'd be kind of weird for us to like try to like start now when we're like level 8. I'm gonna be playing Lancer with my homies and my husband, and that's gonna be a ton of fun. I am working on the Worlds of Aya TTRPG, the art for that. I am working on my own webcomic in between. I am doodling a lot. So I'm hoping to have in the next 6 months or so, I want to do prequel comics for all the characters in our Into the Mist campaign.
Okay.
So that people have backstory. So I'm hoping in the next like 3 to 4 months to get my character's prequel comic done. So like they have like, this is Kamaya, this is who she is, this is why she does things.
This is why she does things.
Yeah, so somebody was explaining Will from Baldur's Gate 3, and I watched the video and I messaged and I was like, is Kamaya the will of the group?
That's awesome.
And Neo goes, yes. And I was like, oh shit.
Oh no.
Well, so Kamaya's whole thing is like she was raised as a monster hunter. So like that's her job. That's all she's known. Her people are gone, which is why she went into Barovia, because her ancient cousin's in Barovia.
Okay.
So she is a very selfless person who is willing to die to make sure others live.
Okay.
And like throws herself into danger.
Yeah, that's Will.
Yeah.
That's Will.
Yeah.
That's Will.
Like she's been canonized as a saint in Vallaki.
Oh wow. Okay.
Because I may have cast daylight in front of the Church of Lathander just to point to the bird.
I need to watch more of your games. Angry Meeple asks, what one spell would you choose to be able to cast in a daily life, any magic system?
Vicious Mockery. If I'm gonna drag somebody, I want it to do actual damage.
That's awesome. That I like.
Vicious Mockery, 100%.
100% Vicious Mockery. That's
like there will be a physical consequence for your goofiness. Thank you.
Like say something. I dare you. So
hey.
I will see
Thank you for
early.
having me.
Thank you so much for being here. It was a lot of fun.